pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We'll move to the roll call.
Trustee Jasperger?
Here.
Trustee Graham?
Here.
Trustee Clark?
Here.
Fiscal officers here, Township Administrator and Superintendent.
Here.
Chief of Fire,
Here.
Chief of Police.
The next meeting will be April 23rd, 2024, here at 999 Chambers Road at 6 p.m. I'd like to make a motion to accept the general flexibility. Second.
Trustee Jasperger?
Yes.
Trustee Graham?
Yes.
Trustee Clark?
Yes.
And we'll move on to the fiscal officer.
Request a motion to approve the bills.
So moved.
Looking for a second.
Second.
All right. Trustee Clark seconded it. Trustee Graham?
Yes.
Trustee Clark?
Yes.
Trustee Jasperger?
Yes.
Seeking a motion to approve payroll.
So moved. Second.
Trustee Jasperger?
Yes.
Trustee Graham?
Yes.
Trustee Clark?
Yes.
Lastly, request a motion to approve the March 26th meeting minutes, and thank you, Bobby, for catching the date wrong in the first paragraph. You win again, even though you weren't at the meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Trustee Jasperger?
Yes.
Trustee Graham?
Yes.
Trustee Clark?
Yes.
And we'll move to, unless there's something else, I'm sorry. Did I cut you off?
I'm good.
The committee meeting and team reports.
For the Clinton Township Community Health Action Team, we held a movie night here on March 15th. Our next free produce market will be Friday the 12th from 4 to 6 p.m. at 3820 Cleveland Avenue. We have a litter sweep scheduled for April 20th, starting at 10 a.m. at 3820 Cleveland Avenue. And the Clinton Township Cares events are scheduled for April 21st at 999 Chambers Road and April 27th at 3820 Cleveland Avenue. Both of these events are from noon to 4 p.m. on both days. And at both of those events, we'll be offering a free women's self-defense class that starts at 1 o'clock.
I sent a mass email out on that. Can you put those things on next door? I tried, not to get them on there.
I thought I did, but I'll double check.
It's not on there, but regarding the beautification workshop, we're gonna set up a chat with the trustee here at 999 Chambers Road. We're bringing back the beautification award, and we're hoping to get volunteers, but mostly we're also trying to get people to be included and sign up because we're really excited about it. And that's going to be on April 25th at 6 p.m. We're also going to be talking about the road improvement projects that have been happening. Dave, we spent how much money in the past couple of years on road improvement projects? With grants and everything?
Over half.
Yeah, we spent over $500,000 on road improvement projects, and they're going to be redoing our roads this year. So I hope a lot of people come. I want to talk about the speed bumps and any other things that we think, if we're going to be milling and filling the roads here, what other kind of things people would like to see. If we want more, if we want less, is it too much? Do we just want to get rid of them? We've had them for about 7 years now, I think, when it got put in the first time. So let's have a conversation about it and see what we're looking for and how we can improve our community.
No, that's the next meeting you're talking about?
April 25th, here in this building.
Okay, where can I get copies of that?
With me, it's online, and she has copies.
There's extra copies back here as
Okay.
well. Yep,
Okay.
and they're online and on our website.
And we're gonna have a sandwich board out front for it also. But I really hope that people come so we can have a good conversation about how to make this area beautiful.
So you're doing sort of a mashup of a chapter trustee, and because you're heading up a beautification effort, that's one of the things you're gonna talk about.
Correct.
All right, but just to clarify, it's not a board meeting, it's just a time, come talk. Okay.
It's a chat with the trustee, with me, and since these are kind of my main projects that I've been working on, I just want to hear on feedback from everybody.
All right, and that's looks like that's a Thursday night.
Yes, Thursday at 6 p.m.
And only you can be here, right?
I think you can come, but you just can't talk.
Yeah, another trustee could observe, but you can't say, that's a great idea, or I hate that idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. And then we'll go ahead and move on to administration.
Okay, I submitted a monthly report, it's pretty lengthy, just go around a lot of things are going on. I just touched base on a few things. I did contact Bill Lafayette about the business survey. He has a rough draft that he had sent out to us, to get some input. And I'll end up getting back with him on what our thoughts are. I posted a job for a labor position in the Public Works Department. We had 2 applicants. One backed out and one we're having trouble with the drug test. Today I got another applicant. We're going to have an interview in the morning with the 3rd person. And Cornell Concrete repaired a catch basin near the intersection of Walford Street and Sale Road. Also got a call on Walford Street at 3675. The gutter chunk of it was coming loose, so I had him do that repair, cut that out, and replace that. And that's all I have on my report. Any questions? Okay, next I got on the agenda is discuss the community room rental policy rules, rental application, and agreement. I know I handed out a packet today. I just want to bring this up. I think Julie's already looked at the policy and submitted something. I think Rebecca's been in contact with Kim Arnold about the insurance. And I'll turn it over to Rebecca and let her speak a little bit about it.
Sure. Well, Kim, first of all, just in case everyone wants to know, Kim apologized to me. Her phone wasn't showing up, her work phone wasn't showing up her voicemail. So she's missed all of my weekly calls since the beginning of January. So that's why we were finally able to connect yesterday. But basically, I would like, so what I found out, general discussion, we have been throwing this need for a building use policy, I think, for forever. Since before I even came on board as a trustee. But I wanted to be able to give people access to this space. A lot of the problems is just, is this space usable? What needs to be, what kind of conditions need to be put in place so that this building is safe for people to meet in? And that was a lot of what Kim and I discussed yesterday. So I put together a guide so that we can, as trustees, generally speak on, and what we've talked about in the past is we would love to be able to offer community meetings. So for example, the UVCA would be a community group that would be meeting. So that would be one of them. General workshops, we keep having these wonderful self-defense classes and other things. That would be a part of the policy. Partnered events, nonprofits and other governments tend to have different groups or have come here and have meetings or other events in our space. And then potentially a future goal would be to have event rentals, so people could have, like residents, if they wanted to have birthday parties, they could have them here for free. And then if people outside of the community wanted to have them, then, and I'm not sure what the pricing would look like, but like, you know, we could rent this space out and what that would potentially look like. So I got a lot of information here. I also got a copy of the insurance policy, which I forwarded to you guys about an hour ago. And we have a building checklist that was thrown out as to things that we would want to make sure that if people were going to use it, that they would check mark and say, like, We're gonna make sure that everything is up to date, kind of like what you would generally do if you were gonna have a meeting at a place. They would always have like okay, here are all the things that you need to check, here's what you're gonna sign, and then those are called whole harmless agreements, so just making sure that the entities would form whole harmless agreements, and then if it was a nonprofit or if it was a government entity, that we would have some sort of certificate ensuring that we were on their insurance if they were going to be using our space, which is something that is generally asked for when you're going to be renting a space if you are an organization. So, but this is a lot to digest and go over in a public meeting. So I would like to have a special meeting, give you guys some time, because I know I talked to Kim yesterday to review the email and everything that was sent out, to talk about the whole harmless policy that Julie put together for us, to go over the insurance policy, see if, what kind of things that we need to do to comply with that. And I'd also like to have somebody come in and do an inspection in this building to see what kind of improvements that we, if any, would need to be done so that we could allow this to be a space for people to use. That was a lot of words.
Well, how's that gonna differ from us using it as a place for a meeting?
Well, I think that in general, we want to just make sure that this is a safe place to use for us too.
Okay.
I think that needs to be, I can't imagine that it's not, but it is a fire bay, and the fire bay has been here since the 1940s. So just making sure that everything is up to code would be important.
So you wanted to have a special meeting to allow the board to get into this versus having a longer conversation at one of the regularly held meetings?
Yeah. And we could even start it before, we could come here at 5 and kind of start talking about it. I don't know what people think. The best time for me is 6 o'clock, but that is kind of late for a lot of people. So I don't know what your guys' feedback and thoughts were about next steps.
I think it's a good idea, though. Have a robust discussion. If need be, the insurance company says that we're protected, and I don't know, when you get the building inspected, I don't know how much would have to be covered in a special meeting, other than which version of the use policy do you want to adopt?
Well, I would love for people to be able to use the bay. According to Kim, as of right now, the bay is not usable. You would have to section it off so they can only use that room.
Okay.
That's one thing that needs to be discussed. I would like to separate it into 3 sections. I think that we used to have spaghetti dinners in here. I would love to be able to have that come back. So that's one reason why we would need to see what, if anything, needs to be done to make this space usable. In general, I think Trustee Jessberger had a great suggestion. We should have a painting party just to spruce this place up a little bit. I think that would be really good. If we do, once we find out what kind of things need to be done in here, how can we make this space a better, clean space for communities to use? We had a wonderful time. I know that it was very small, but having the movie night here, but there was a little baby who was playing with the holes in the ground, and I just kept thinking to myself, the baby's playing with holes in the ground, which is covered in oil and other kind of things that we don't necessarily know are here, because this is where a fire truck used to be. So, what kind of things that we could do just to spruce up the place, if it is going to be a community space that people can use and have events and stuff, how can we make it more aesthetically pleasing, hospitable?
So are you proposing that it gets inspected and then we talk about at a special meeting?
I think that would be best, unless we want to have the meeting beforehand to see what kind of questions we want to ask the inspector.
So I think you proposed meeting possibly at 5 p.m. before our next meeting on the 23rd, but not making any decisions until then, really, until the whole board gets a chance to look at all this stuff and think about it more.
And then I'll just reach out to Kim and see what would it cost to have a code inspector come out and inspect the space. Or if we can just use internally our own code inspectors. if that would be sufficient or if it has to be a third party or not. Because Tim could do that, right?
Yeah.
The fire safety codes, yes, Tim could do that. Trying to think of any building code. Probably our building department may be able to help out with that. Some internal
They
building.
may, there's probably some avenues to reach out to, I think OSHA, I think you can maybe reach out to them, they'll look at electrical and stuff like that. I think Kim can guide us. I mean, I know Kim's, and she come out on the properties and looked at them before, and give
She's been here.
recommendations. So she could she may be actually able to. Sure. So, and I guess we're going to start.
Yeah, she said she'd be willing to come out if we wanted her to. That we weren't technically on her rotation, but she'd be willing to come out if we wanted her to.
I feel like she came through this building with Mr. Huffman at some point.
She did.
I think she's on a 2-year rotation, right?
Yeah.
And she's not
We're not up this
scheduled
year.
until next year.
Yeah.
I would think this building has to be pretty safe, actually, because we put all kinds of money into it, to open it as a firehouse. And I would think that it would have made sure that it was very safe for the fire guys, so I would think it should be pretty safe right now. But I think you're probably right to have an inspector come and double check things, but I would say it has to be safe myself. We've been meeting in here for years and nobody's ever died.
Not even at these township meetings.
Yet.
Not yet.
I mean, I think we're looking at the reason for different use, maybe we need to get rid of some of the weight stuff. You know, we have little kids in here at a birthday party, they're up there playing with that stuff.
Yeah, no, that's
I
fine.
think that's
Can we
what
keep the grill?
we're talking about consideration.
Those are things get dicey.
That would be a good discussion to have at a special meeting.
So maybe we have the inspection done and then we look at dates,
Okay.
so we're not having.
Multiple. Okay. Perfect. I will email her that.
Okay, next I have an update on the meeting with the city of Columbus with the Connect housing blocks and annexation. Dave Clark and Julie Donman, our attorney, and I met with the city of Columbus. As far as the Connect housing blocks, I did get a reply back from them, from Quentin Harris. Their agreement with Connect housing blocks, they don't have, Connect housing blocks don't have to turn in their paperwork until the end of April. Our agreement with Columbus is that we're supposed to have them to check by April 15th. So it doesn't look like we're gonna meet that, and legally, we don't have to, because we're waiting on Columbus to give us the documentations, to where we send the check and who we send it to. Once we get that information, we can do that. But it looks like it's not gonna happen until next month before we get that information.
What are Connect housing blocks? What now what you're talking about?
That's the old Schottenstein's property at Ennis and Westerville Road that's turned into, they got modular units,
Okay.
housing units.
Are they in the parking lot or inside the building?
They're supposed to have some outside, but they're manufactured inside.
Oh, okay.
They're still starting this business off. There's not a whole lot of, information about it. I've asked for a tour for their trustees and stuff, so we can get through there and look at it, see what they're doing. They're still at the beginning stages.
Okay.
And that's the name of the company, Connect Housing?
Yeah, Connect Housing Blocks.
I found an article about them, I think in Columbus Underground, that had neat photos on the inside that, like, you know, that article said, I think by the end of this last year, he wanted to have 120 staff. He was only halfway through the year, and that up to 300 staff will be in there, so it's pretty neat. I've never seen it from my own eyes, but that article was interesting.
Mike and I's been over there.
Yeah, they have put a lot of money in the inside of those buildings.
Yeah.
And one day where after shot scenes left, Brian put it in there, I mean, they had ripped all the wiring out, cables, air conditioning, HVAC, I mean, millions of dollars worth of stuff was taken out of those buildings and they have completely redone the inside. So they have got to be invested in.
Yeah.
They're into the operation, all their machinery is in there. We've rotated each shift of our fire department and the agencies around us through there several days, just to learn how the equipment's operating, how the emergency shut-offs operate. And Tim is currently, our fire inspector is currently working with their safety person to set up some extinguisher classes for all their staff. So they're moving ahead pretty quickly, it seems.
I think eventually there are gonna be some buildings outside the parking lot they have set up.
Like
They're
living
currently
in,
building, the modular units for the trolley district, which is over by Franklin Park Conservatory. But it's amazing. They've had a couple really big hiring events and they kind of hire right on the spot. You have a record, like felonies, like they're hiring, they do all the in-training, like with that, in-house. It's pretty amazing.
yeah, the article I read said a lot of folks, he's hiring from Linden and you can start at $18 an hour and within a year and a half, if you get, they train you, you could get up to $28 an hour, so it's pretty magnanimous.
That's the article you sent me, right?
Yeah, pretty awesome to try to help with employment and the housing crisis.
And the education that they provide, because they're teaching not just, basic stuff, but you're getting welding certificates, you're getting all sorts of different things that can carry you in your career if you want to continue going down that track.
Who or what is the company or entity that is doing all of this?
Connect Housing.
Oh, that's what it is called, is Connect Housing, that is doing all this, okay.
I think the owner's name is Brad Hayes.
I'm sorry,
I
what?
think the owner's name is Brad Hayes. I can try to share the article I read in Columbus Underground. It also did stuff with the trolley barn.
Gotcha.
So the second part of that meeting was talking about annexation of the township. One thing that seemed to be clear from Columbus is they do not want to annex any more property in the township. They don't want to do a blanket agreement for the water and sewer services and other services. They'd like to have several agreements about individual properties or individual areas that are being developed. They said they can fast track this agreement. They feel there's no problem with that. So if a developer comes to them wanting to develop part of the township, they can do it in a speedy process and come up with an agreement with us. Really didn't want to get into any specifics or anything like that at this time until we have an area or a property to talk about.
They did suggest that we could meet with them quarterly. We could identify properties potential for development and getting them, start working on an agreement. So it could be like talked about before somebody, a builder comes to them.
So this upsets me because that wasn't what we had agreed upon. That wasn't the original purpose of the annexation that we had talked about. And I can't remember what was the memorandum that we signed last year, but that wasn't a part of it. So what changed between the memorandum and now?
I do have that with me.
My memory of the memorandum was that they would try to not annex. So I think that this is just follow-up from that, and that the city's saying we can't do a blanket, we promise we will never annex anything. They want to do it project by project. So I don't think it's contrary to what, I'll let Mr. Medley clarify, but I think it's still going in the same direction.
Yeah, I think they just wanted to start negotiations. That's what the understanding was, that we would move into negotiations. And that, like I said, this is the first step of the negotiation process.
But didn't it sound like a new memorandum or agreement would be agreed upon, like per property that came up?
Yeah, depending on what the project is and how large it is, I think money's gonna be the driven part. If it's a small one, maybe they don't ask for as much, or if it's larger, maybe they don't ask for as much revenue back. But at
So-
some point in time, they'll want a piece of the revenue that, where the property has increased, the TIF, they'll want a part of that come back to them for the services that
But
they
we-
provide.
We tipped it, so don't we get the money?
We do,
We
we
do.
do, and with the,
But with this agreement, we can agree that they get 20%, 30%, whatever it is, they will receive for providing services to our township.
And it sounded like they were looking for just to start with the cost recovery, because they mentioned that, was it Connect Block, housing block, was like $8.5 million?
yeah,
No,
They
it's
were
more
looking
than
to
that.
recover?
it was eight something.
Yeah,
I thought it was
8.1.
15 million.
No,
It's
it was
8.1.
8 million something, yeah.
yeah, 8.1.
Cause that was the original reason we started discussing this with Connect Housing. When my literal first meeting ever in the township, that was a really fun conversation.
And I think if the infrastructure needs improved upon or enlarged, maybe part of that TIF pays for that. Maybe that'll be part of the agreement. Like I said, they wanna do it as individual areas or properties.
And I've heard on the back end, or sharing revenues of future income taxes. So I think Mr. Medley's coming from the infrastructure part, with more water. And there's gonna be more jobs that per parcel, the township and the city might negotiate that. So there's a rumor that this church next door might sell very tiny parcel. There's also Lennox 21, we've seen drawings of huge buildings over there. So totally different projects or animals. And I guess the city just wants to take it maybe parcel by parcel or project by project or developer by developer.
Where we're having trouble is we don't have the zoning, so we don't know what these developers are anticipating on zoning. They're talking to, the county and stuff like that, trying to get these properties developed. We're coming in at a little later time. So I think with the Gen Z board hiring a community
Yeah.
development person,
Yeah.
they'll be the person that's gonna be on top of that. They're gonna be able to spend the time and know what's going on. I think the sooner we have that in place, that person will also be at the table with this negotiation, I'd hope, in moving forward.
So, can we ask that as we choose the economic development specialists that's going to be paid for through the Gen Z, can we ask for negotiations or experience working with Columbus, or just what's their past experience of being at the table and things like this?
I'm sure they're gonna be well versed in everything, from what I'm understanding. We haven't seen the advertisement for it yet, but we have a Gen Z board meeting coming up here in a couple weeks, maybe, week and a half.
My
So,
calendar knows.
yeah.
My brain doesn't know.
This month.
And they were looking, because Upper Arlington has someone already doing it.
Right.
And Grandview Heights was looking, maybe we could
Dave, can I ask
potentially
that
use the same person.
as a takeaway for you to go back to the Gen Z board and say, like, we really need these things,
Well,
these
I-
items?
Yeah.
I'm on the Gen Z board, and the Gen Z board is who's gonna pay for this person, not the township's Gen Z.
But I know
money.
he's gonna be interviewing, so I just wanna make sure that that's a part of the interview process, that we
Right.
vet somebody that has those kind of special
We're for it.
criteria.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There'll be a lot of communication between Clark, who's able to attend those, myself, who's still on the Gen Z board. These are important weeds to get into, and so the Gen Z board is gonna hire a person or a company to do business development for us, not full-time, but probably more than 20 hours a week.
And Dave and Julie did a good job of negotiating and making sure that the memorandum that was signed was something they kept in mind, so it seemed like a positive meeting that they wanted to move forward with future projects too.
And that they don't wanna annex, and it seems,
Right.
That was the biggest thing I brought out
yeah.
to them was, you definitely don't want to annex, and they do not. They don't want to take any more responsibility for, because, you know, if they provide water and sewer, if they annex the property, okay, now they're responsible for sidewalks, responsible for
Yep,
roadways, the lighting. It's too much responsibility, they're getting stretched.
I'm sorry, Chief, you want to say something?
Yeah, kind of not being in the mix with all this is one thing I would bring up from a public safety aspect. You know, I'm not sure what these TIFs are covering or what, when they talk about, we're gonna annex only certain areas. One thing we need to realize too is the cost of public safety, whether they're annexing large parcels for development, they're adding real estate that's gonna be high-rise apartments, we start adding people to the mix. How's that going to affect our public safety forces with what we're currently doing now? If Columbus, you know, are they going to provide something in aspect to that? Or they're
That's a
just
good
talking
point.
about water coverage and,
What they're trying to do is generate more revenue for the Jet Z than the CETA. Right now, our funds have been pretty stagnant over the last few years. A lot of other communities are raising at least by 3% a year. If we get some development, that'll raise them Jet Z funds and CETA funds, which will in turn be able to be spent on coverage.
I think the important thing, Mike, would be all of us keep our ear to the ground about potential developments, and then like high rises pop up, then that would be where you and Brian can get at the table and discuss about public safety needs.
and it's, I was just kind of catching some of the tips a little bit ago when they were talking about Columbus taking some of that revenue is the increase. I guess that's a little concern.
And we're not gonna lose what we're getting now, that, they can't touch what we're receiving now. But as the property, the valuation of the property increases, that money is kind of in play.
Columbus didn't say that to me, other business development people from Grandview said, typically this is how this is done. And something like that actually almost did happen with the Connect Housing 3 or 4 years ago when Kevin Vaughn was here. We need to build more, but when we build more, we should share in what comes out of it. So, a lot to consider, you know. Medley knows water pipes, I've been told you might share income taxes, and in between is first responders. Even during construction, there's a demand on first responders.
I am concerned about a specific property right now, and that's Gray Bar. Gray Bar moved out, and that was Gen Z income that we lost. And my concern is, somebody come move in, buy that property, and we'll have another high-rise go up, because there's already that one apartment building there. Is there anything we can do to make sure that doesn't happen?
Well, it's commercial property, from what I understand, if it goes, they'd have to ask for that to be changed over out of commercial to residential, because apartments is not a commercial
Right.
property. So there would be no Jet Z. So we had to make sure that we keep that as a commercial property.
Right.
There's another property that sold here recently on the east side. I'm thinking that may be our first agreement on that.
Okay. Well, can we make sure we keep an eye on this Gray Bar property as to what's going on with it?
And I said that's another reason why the Jet Z board's gonna hire
Okay.
a person to manage all this.
And I've randomly been thinking, it's been a long time since we've done a land use plan for both sides of the township, so it doesn't directly hit this, but probably within 2 years or so, we should be doing land use plans. There was one for Clinton West, and there was one over, like 2010, I think was the last one done. Because these things are all happening right now, and I think it's just, we should probably get going on that. We should do lots more. I think that would help us just sort of say, look, there's plenty of residential, we need to keep commercial as well, or whatever the math shows on those things. I have no idea what it would show, but it's been more than a decade since we've done a land use plan.
From what I understand, it'd be pretty hard to get it changed over to residential.
Change its purpose,
Yes.
yeah.
But
Again, they're not looking to annex, they would rather negotiate a portion of the taxes in exchange for not annexing. So their incentive is to not annex, put the water in, try to get cost recovery on what they put into a project through the taxes.
I guess what I would like to see is if we're gonna have an agreement that says, cause like what we negotiated with Connect Housing was that we would give Columbus a portion of the funds until their 8 million was recovered. And then they were gonna get, I think, 20% of revenue of income tax revenue from that property going forward, and we would keep the 80%. And of course, Grandview was gonna get their cut for processing everything for us. But that was going to end. Like we were gonna, the general sharing of the money, as soon as they got their 8 million back, then we were gonna be able to get an additional set of funds for it. So is that kind of the relationship that they're wanting to keep going forward? If Columbus provides help to builders to be able to improve the space, then we would just keep like giving them a portion of it, or like what were they thinking in this agreement?
Don't know until we get to the.
They were not
property.
promising anything for the
Yeah.
future, they're holding their cards back because they have to answer to a lot of other people.
Yeah, they was pretty tight mouthed on what they was talking about. They didn't want to promise anything.
And
They don't want to set
Connect
precedent.
Housing blocks, that is a year, so many years, and that ends.
Correct.
It's
From
not,
where-
when- it's not when they get their 8 million back, it's so
Yeah.
many years it ends.
That wasn't, no?
Or, so many years, or.
Okay, yeah, that's right. Or if they get their 8 million back.
from where we said, they're not gonna get their 8 million back in 20 years. It would take longer than that. But we only have the first year's numbers, so,
Unless it booms,
yeah.
unless it really booms.
I know that the Connect Housing there in California is really booming. So I think it will. It is really, really popular on the other side of the country.
So I've reached out to Grandview, left a message with P. Liz to kind of give her an update on what's going on. Because at some point in time, they're going to be involved, the board's going to be involved, there's going to be several meetings before agreement is right.
I don't trust Columbus to do what they say they're gonna do. When it comes to townships, they'll screw them royal. They screwed Franklin Township, and I don't trust them at all.
Right now, they only have one agreement with Perry Township, and it's kind of a one-off, so they can kind of use that as a guideline, but it won't work for us.
Concord Township is getting ready to sue Columbus, and Concord Township's in Delaware County, so for annexation problems. So that's why I'm really this makes me nervous.
Annexation always never a fun subject, but something about they have bond propensities, and this goes back to Kevin Bond, that they're not actually even able. This isn't facts. This is just fuzzy memory of mine. They can't annex us because of our bond and their bonds for now. But it is holding up development. That's what we learned from Grandview. So nobody's trusting anybody. It's all written down in agreed contracts, but. Yeah, our existing contracts have protected us from a loss of revenues, but it's also held up development somewhere, somehow. They say.
That's why we'll have
Well, they
at
can't
least
even
two
get-
attorneys
Many attorneys, many
on our
attorneys.
side
Yeah.
that's looking for things.
They're having trouble even getting bonds because of their credit rating too.
Well, the one thing they've kept their word on is they haven't gone after Lennox yet. Doug Cocker negotiated that, and that's still holding.
It doesn't sound like they want any part of it right now.
Good.
To be continued.
Using flexibility, the stormwater conference is in Sandusky this year from May 8th to 10th. I'd like to attend that if I get permission to take the truck outside of the adjacent county.
What is it?
May 8th to 10th.
I'm looking, wild group,
So moved.
stormwater.
It's huge.
Take the vehicle out of the county.
Just seconded.
I'm trying to figure out what I'm writing down.
I think it's in the handbook. If we can go to adjacent county, this will be outside the adjacent county.
So May
You have
8th
to
through
ask
the 10th.
permission.
Trustee Jessberger?
Yes.
Trustee Grimm?
Yes.
Trustee Clark?
Yes.
That's all I have.
To you, Chief Bailey.
I sent a monthly report earlier, read through some of that real quick. For March, we responded to 527 incidents. We reported a record high 178 hours of training on various EMS and fire topics, 62 hours of which was live fire training with the facility out back of Station 61, with multiple other agencies coming over to take part. Fire safety inspector conducted 32 inspections. He continues to work with Capital Grill at Lennox on fire alarm and extinguishment systems. He's working with the building department on a new daycare and small grocery store on the east side. And I already told you about building blocks with him. The EMS training coordinator position, reviewed 321 EMS reports for QA, QI, and processed for billing. Conducted home visits with the social work intern. And the OSU social work intern, currently working with 13 residents, attempted to conduct 11 home visits, but only made contact with 6 and had 7 phone visits. Contacted several resources to forward this to the residents in need. Next, resolution to approve the memorandum of understanding with Local 1800 concerning the 40-hour EMS training coordinator position.
So moved.
Second.
Trustee Jessberger?
Yes.
Trustee Grimm?
Yes.
Trustee Clark?
Yes.
And last, I listed a community resource specialist. I sent out an email earlier in the week concerning the fact that our social work intern will be leaving us here at the end of April. And we do have a list of clientele that we're currently helping. I am interviewing other OSU interns. However, September will be the start date if we ended up with any other interns. So we're gonna have quite a big gap. My thought was to offer a part-time community resource specialist position to not only fill that gap, but also once we do get other interns here, have someone to be able to help them from the start, which Carly was a new social work student with us with no field experience, and she's built on that since August of last year. Has done a pretty good job of coming up with assessment forms and the data that I shared with you concerning what she's doing every month. So I just wanted to bring that up to the board and check thoughts on which direction we want to go.
I think it's amazing. I think that this township needs it. I have watched Carly with some of the families, especially coming through the produce market. And they have all shared with me that they are very grateful for her and everything that she's been able to help them do. And it's a lot for one person. I wish it could be full-time. I think in the future we could get there, but I think right now, everything that she's doing needs to be sustained. Because she's putting together just a ton of other resources that I think people haven't really thought much about in our township.
I remember when you brought this to my attention that Jess had a lot of connections at OSU to try to see if we could get the program implemented. Back when I first began, and I was really excited about it because we talk about economic development, and a part of economic development is helping our community develop as well, and providing them the resources so that they can do what they need to do to be, successful in their own lives. And the fact that we have a program like this is just super exciting, and I think it shows how important, Dan Quigley does an amazing job with code compliance and that aspect of community development. And then this, to me, is the other side of community development, of giving people the resources that they need to be successful in their lives. So I love it. I'm super excited. I want to see this program grow. That's my thoughts.
I don't know how we can afford it, but the police levy went down, more money with Jed Z, committee in general, funds. I'm gonna have to go to just operating the township and the current obligations, the police, fire, road, maintenance.
If we're paying a person part-time for, did you say like 9 months? So between now and then being able to train up the next intern, is kind of what you're thinking?
I didn't have a time frame on part-time.
Is the intern an unpaid position?
The intern's unpaid. And OSU, the agreement we have with OSU, or the bachelor's interns are basically with no social work experience, they'll be coming in. So I didn't put a time frame on it. If the board would like to have a time frame on it, or be more comfortable with that, that's your decision to make. But having a time frame would concern me, because if we get to the end of the year and decide to go away with it, and our next new intern is leaving in April of next year, we're gonna end up doing the same thing over again, or request the same thing over again.
And there's no guarantee that any social work student, next year, we may not have anyone request to be placed with us. It's all individual based,
Yeah,
like the
so-
students can pick ideally what they would like to do.
So when I'm interviewing a student, I'm one of 3 that they're doing. So I can offer them a position, which has happened in the past, and they've chosen one of the other interviews that they've had. So the person we have now is the first that accepted with us.
Well, and I would, oh, sorry.
And I think, I would probably push that because it's part-time, that this position come out of general fund, because it's still going to allow for police to use this position, and fire, code, if Dan would ever have anything, like a hoarding situation, and we need to get assessments or mental health resources put together. And because it's part-time, and then Chief, correct me if I'm wrong, they would not get benefits.
Correct.
And it would be just like a part-time fire position. But I would request that it come out of general fund.
Do we have an increased revenue that, I'm talking, asking you,
What?
where, is there potential for increased revenue in the township that can help fund this? 'Cause I think us continuing taking from the Jed Z is not economically sustainable.
Today was the first time that this got on my radar screen. So the intern we have now is gonna be done at the end of this month. If the board does wanna approve continuing her, we would need to amend permanent appropriations, and probably get through the rest of this year, or September when students start again. I don't know of any increased revenue potentials happening between now and the end of the year. The bigger picture with economic development, if we've hit levy fatigue with voters, we need economic development to save us, and that's more like the 5 and 10 year window of things.
Right.
Can we afford it this year? Yes, the money is there. Yes, not my decision. That's a
No.
group decision. From the 10,000-foot view, as I educate every trustee with this great income tax we have, but headache of where we're going to invest it, it really comes down to infrastructure or first responders. And personally, I really love the idea of us having an internal ongoing ways to help the community members, even folks that might, I don't know, live a hair outside of the township. When the fire chief brought this up to me, I was like, is she gonna get OPERS? Which we don't know. Would we have the pension match? We do have a part-time health insurance policy. The employees pay 18% of it. They can't get the HRA card, so. I think this person has been great. I haven't worked shoulder to shoulder with her, but she's invested and has been here. So it just is difficult that we're now kind of at this deadline of, we've got sort of 3 weeks to tell this person, can we keep you around between now and September or between now and the end of the year? So that's really where the rubber's meeting the road on.
Well, I think it's a great position. I'm just
I also would
long-term
argue.
paying for it.
I also would argue that this helps first responders because when you look at policing and fire in America, a lot of what they do respond to is drug overdoses, mental health issues, all these kind of things that's also partially what a social worker does, is trying to help people develop themselves and, not have to require the services of somebody because the social worker helps them get on their own 2 feet. So you would be aiding the people that Carly is talking to in the community helps. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it helps first responders, and that is a huge impact that we're having right now. The police levy did not go through, so having that additional resource is extremely important right now.
Well, this is a little bit like when we said gun safety laws. We'll never know what we're avoiding by passing them out. So, yes, being proactive is awesome. I'm just look at the numbers because it means less going to other departments potentially someday. For now, we've got it. In the short run, it means maybe I do paving every other year to keep doing robust services. Group decision, it's a big decision, but yes, the general fund could afford this for the next few months, and it's a newer thing to have a social worker, so it's a newer thing to go from intern to part-time paid, and just work out internally. Do we have a part-time paid for that bridge in between? Would it make sense to keep somebody paid the first month an intern's on? And then know that that's gonna happen again next summer. This isn't a surprise, that in the spring, the interns are leaving, but we keep them on if they'd like to stay to get us through the summer and train the first month that the next intern's on. I don't know. We know that Carly's been very active the whole time she's been in the township, so I think it's been a great resource, and you're lucky to get an intern that can jump in with both feet and not get paid. But it does round out their education, and it does take a lot of supervisory work. So when we say it's free, it doesn't mean there isn't people working. Then I know Trustee Jessberger signs off on her stuff, and I've had interns before. It's a beast to sometimes talk to the professor every 2 weeks and say, yep, they're coming in and working. So it's a complicated thing, but in the near run, the chief is saying if the board could pay for her to stay on over the summer through the end of the year, that we'll need to amend permanent appropriations and make that decision at our next meeting, April 23rd.
Just so that the board is aware, there are grant possibilities also
Right.
to help with this position
Right.
that we're seeking now. But again, grants are not a promise. It's an
It's soft money. Yeah.
Yeah. But some of those will pay in full for that position for a 3-year period. So there are grant funds available for it. It's just learning the application process.
If I was a board of trustees member, I would support it, but I would approve it this year, but I'd say let's get really into our 5-year projections, because I don't ever want to cut any staff we have, That's,
I'm not opposed to the position.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think beyond short term,
This is
because I don't want to run out of money for the person, get them employed, and then say, oh, sorry, now we don't have the money to keep you employed.
But I just think that this is thinking long term about the betterment of our community and having that resource available. And hopefully maybe someday we wouldn't need that, but we gotta get there somehow.
Does the county have social workers?
They have community health workers that we have tried to use in the past, and that's one of the reasons why we did go to OSU for this intern program. social workers are capped at 30 clients per social worker. So their ability to take on more clients, and the ability to actually work directly with a client for any period of time is pretty difficult because of the amount of workload they currently have. But we have in the past used them when we first started trying to do any type of social work. When we would use their community health workers to try to do the outreach, and again, we just had a disconnect with it. And that's
It looks like Carly's right at that, well, 31, she's working with 31 right now.
I'm sorry?
I said, it looks like Carly's working with, potentially, looks like 31 by your numbers, so I mean, she's working at what the,
Yeah, she
county's
currently has
doing, right?
13 clients.
Okay.
She tried to do 11 home visits, and we could only make contact with 6, and she
Okay.
called 7 of them last month.
Okay.
But it goes, that's the highest we've had so far, but again, it's been building since, August is when she started last year. Referrals come in from fire, police, code, fire probably the most regular. But again, referrals come in from all departments, and when she gets those, myself or Lieutenant Brown will take time to get her out to a home to do a visit. The system's been working pretty well for us so far.
how many hours, like, a week does it
She's
take out of your,
She's doing 15 hours a week right now.
no, you, how much time are you on a per weekly basis approximately? Does it take out of your,
Probably 5 hours a week, maybe.
Yeah, and there's been times too, our officers the sheriff's officers has their CIT program. The deputies come out, and we see a lot of same repeat customers time and time again, not just homeless, but some of our residents. I know on day shift, we've been able to get Carly a few times with issues we've had. This is a 24-hour problem. I mean, we have calls in the middle of the night with issues in the apartments around Cleveland Avenue, where we don't have clinicians, because even the sheriff's office, their folks are only out until 10, 11 o'clock. So third shift, we still have these problems all night long. Adam H is opening a new facility hopefully next year, that they got millions of dollars for funding, and we on the police side, our police chiefs meetings, we've had discussions about it. They're looking at only 25 or 30 beds. We are underwater, Franklin County, when it comes to mental health.
yeah? Well, I think it's much needed. I'm just,
Oh, no,
look at the,
but you're correct, it's where do we get the funding to do this?
I don't want it to be running out of, pulling out, something impacting too much of the general funds, or something else comes up, and we're committed to it, and just wanna, so what do we have to do to crunch the numbers?
I can work with the chief to amend permanent appropriations to cover this, till the end of the year. She might only work till September, but we might as well project she stays on till the end of December. It won't be a wild amount of money. It's not gonna cut any projects out this or next year. It's just, beyond the 2-year picture, all of our departments need to look at our finances.
What's the proposed wage again? I'm sorry.
$20 an hour for 25
15
hours a week.
24 hours a week.
24 hours a week.
8-hour days.
Okay.
This would go through the fire department,
She would be housed in.
money,
No, it would come out of the general fund. Her office is still physically on the fire side,
okay.
but no, it makes legal sense to pay her out of the general fund so that she can leave in a police cruiser if she needs to, or an EMS. I don't know what her life looks like, but if she's paid out of the general fund, she can do either service.
And who's their supervisor?
So right now I have it in a job description listed as me. It's just been the system that we've had since we started this program with OSU. The agreement we have with OSU is actually with the Clinton Township Division of Fire, and they needed a department head to be a field instructor for the social workers, so that ended up being me. And Trustees yesterday. So So,
You're the boss, chief?
Jess is. Jess and Brian are the boss together.
Good.
Approximately 15 to 17,000,
Yeah,
somewhere in that range.
right,
That's just the salary.
Yeah.
yeah. I just
So we gotta
legally
pay
wanna double
Workers'
check.
comp and all that
I just
stuff.
legally wanna double check if she should get OPERS, because if she doesn't, other than your part-time fire, she would be the only part-time person not participating in OPERS. It's just sort of policy questions, and I would just compare to other townships that have this position. I think she should be in OPERS.
Medication.
She might legally be required, I just don't know. Yeah,
Right.
so that's a 14% match on top of that. It's not the end of the world, it's not even gonna be 20,000, I'm guessing,
So
but,
times 1.14, that gets us to still under 20,000.
right. Like
1.14, because I give
Workers'
the
comp
plus
and all
on
that.
top of it.
Right, right, I'm not gonna do the math right now.
No, I know,
You
but I
can't
mean-
afford it this
no,
year,
I-
I'm sure of it.
Okay, okay.
Sure.
I mean, your numbers will include all that stuff, right?
We have to for
Yeah,
appropriations,
okay.
like, it'll probably just start out like salary, social worker, I don't know what gibberish we'll be able to plug in. And she'll be lumped into everybody in general's OPERS contributions.
Okay.
And she can think through if she would like our health insurance at she would contribute 18%, but it doesn't have an HRA card. I have no idea, she might have a health
so
insurance
most
policy.
of our staff that are of that age are still under the CARES plan.
Right,
So we have a lot that don't take health care coverage at this point.
and even if she did, it's not that expensive to the township. And it's a responsible thing to do to keep your employee healthy.
Right. Give you the authority to check it, this guy.
What? What are you guys talking about?
I just thought if there was any studies or any research about the economic impact of a social worker on a community, so that we could look at the benefit versus the cost.
Well, I'm in favor of it. I'm totally in favor because I can see what good she does.
I'm just saying that
Yeah.
you can see that we could talk a lot about economic development, so we should talk about the economic impact
Right.
of having social work in the community, and I think that would be helpful towards the discussion.
So
think
next
you're right.
meeting, after I have a discussion with the fiscal officer, I'll have a resolution to offer.
Okay.
And amend propos.
What?
Amend permanent appropriations.
And then,
Yeah. Thank you, that's all I have.
With police,
Yeah, I sent the board our monthly report from March, runs all blank up a little bit. For the folks on the west side, didn't make the news, we had a shooting and robbery in our Walford Market. It has been quite over the last decade. Few DOAs drug-related in the last month. And then one significant issue over here was the Chase ATM in the Lennox Town Center was stolen from the night.
Oh,
They hotwired the Columbus Bobcat who skid steered, knocked it off the foundation and loaded it into a stolen pickup truck. So
Right.
apparently a few of these have happened around Columbus, so detectives are kind of working with other jurisdictions to see where that goes to. So in that report, we sent over to the CAST organization that owns Lennox Town Center. And we have had several talks with them. Actually, I talked with Flock, their folks today, about them installing some of the Flock license plate readers in Lennox to assist us with the investigations of the crime over there. So I kind of shared some of that with Mr. Medley to get to know the folks at Casto who own the shopping centers. But we're making pretty good progress. So we are also going to kick off our officer, the Gen Z officer that we have, that's going to work with the stores in Casto. There's a retired Columbus police lieutenant that works for Casto that kind of handles the Great Southern Shopping Center. He's now looking to head flock to that one because that one's a real mess, I guess. So again, we talked about economic development. I kind of shared those ideas with the folks at Casto. they had no idea about the kind of stuff that was happening here. So, we are looking that way and things are going ahead. So,
Where would the fog lights go? Like, would it be on the light posts, or would it be?
they'll come out and put them at the entrances. One thing, Casto was worried about some of the shoppers and some of the stores having a little negative reaction to, we had to explain to them, they thought they were security cameras that saw everybody took, and we had to explain it was a license plate reader, it's not a security camera. They were worried about customers thinking they were being watched at the shopping center. So no, these are gonna be out the entrances when people pull in, they'll capture that information. Unfortunately, the truck and the ATM machine was stolen, so we had a stolen vehicle, so. But for some of the other things, the car break-ins, they have other options available that we're discussing. Around the Bravo restaurant there, we've had cars broken into. That's their concern with Capital Grill. It's gonna be kind of an upper clientele in that area. So we can have the access to move it on its pole, but it wouldn't have the big satellite dish. It'll be a battery-powered unit that looks different from the other flock cameras. So we can see those cars that keep driving up and down the lanes looking for targets, and they'll hit those license plates, and then we can develop suspects off like that.
That's awesome. That's really exciting. And do we have a more up-to-date number on how successful the flock system has been within Clinton Township? Because I know we talk about it every once in a while, but.
Well, Officer Cucci's averaging about 5 or 6 cars every 2 days that are stolen. Again, we know that vehicle's stolen, the car takes off, we try to pursue it, and then we shut the pursuit down because these people take off at 80, 90 miles an hour. Last week, we had one going off the center down Cleveland Avenue toward Morris Road. They're gonna kill somebody. We don't wanna participate in that, but, until things with liability change, it's kind of where we're stuck at right now. But we're catching these, at least the cars, we get visibility on them. We had a missing endangered, unfortunately. Sale Road, we had a missing out of Columbus, suicidal person. They ended up in the township and they were discovered on Sale Road where they took their own life. But again, the license plate readers catching that vehicle information, it was in the area, we just didn't know where.
So where are these mounted on?
If you look at the neighborhood over here, as soon as you start going down Chambers, there's a pole right there, just down from where Nick Guy's
Oh,
house
I
is.
probably saw it.
Looks
I
like
thought
kind
it
of
was
like a football looking thing with a.
Yeah, I thought it
solar
was
panel on it.
CCTV.
Square panel on top of it.
Yeah.
There's
So,
one down here and one.
fortunately for the west side here, we don't get any hits on these.
No surprise. But that would be really great, Athletics. I'm really excited.
Retailers or merchants are afraid of their customers on CCTV.
I'm sorry?
You said that people were leery that it was like filming everybody.
That was kind of Casto's fear. They talked to their legal folks and they weren't, some shopping centers, and I talked to the director of security for the Easton Town Center here a couple weeks ago. We had a meeting. And with Easton, they want the cameras. I mean, the cameras are helping them.
Right.
Casto's folks, they're legal people. They're afraid of,
Big Brother?
Big Brother, I don't know, that's their personal belief. So I got together with one of the head folks at Flock and we had a kind of a telephone conversation. So alleviate those fears that we are not watching, they don't watch people, they're just catching the license plates. And that's how we garnered the suspects from them. Most of the retail shoplifting now is done with these gangs where people are hitting the Sephora, Bath and Body Works. It's some of the same people over and over again. They don't really get prosecuted in Franklin County, so hopefully they go to Polaris and they prosecute in Delaware. But a couple of them have RICO cases right now because of the tens of thousands of dollars they've stolen.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna interrupt. We're gonna have to move forward with 2 trustees. Somebody has to. Go. But that's okay. Just wanted to make that
That's all
announcement.
I have.
Okay, do we have any, do we wanna switch back to public works?
Okay, Cody Lester, he submitted his monthly report to the board. Just a couple items. We got collected 3,280 pounds of brush in March. We Didn't use the chipper for that, we used the backhoe loaded that. They collected about 8 tires from around the township. They picked up numerous bags of trash that's been left in the alleyways within the township. Pretty bad. Then they cleaned the curbs up along Walford Street. Then one thing I forgot to remind everybody is I sent out about the 40 fire for health insurance. It's our renewal time, so if we can get them that filled out. So
A reminder, you should clean out your storm drains. Like, residents are responsible for keeping your storm drains clear, the township will help. But the rains that hit about a week ago, I was shocked my neighbors didn't pull the limbs out of their own storm drains and their backyards were flooding. So, just a FYI that it's awesome. People started putting their brush out way before you're doing pickup, and it was just sort of unexpected that people didn't clean out their own storm drains. I'm not saying nowhere, but your people can't be everywhere doing it, and just kind of common sense for our
Is
neighbors.
this some, like a public relations announcement that we should probably hit up on social media as a reminder?
Even
The
for the
folks, and you mentioned with the stormwater drains, you said they'll get assistance or help? Is that through our public works department? What'd you say?
It's residents' responsibility to keep their storm drains clear.
Okay.
If the road department can, they will help.
Okay,
Gotcha.
gotcha.
So I just have a brainstorm for next year's newsletter that you're gonna start crafting in January or February. We could remind folks, you might put your brush out 2 months before your fellows are gonna come scoop it up, but you're sitting ripe for clogging your own storm drain if you do that.
Okay.
So there's no easy answer other than think about
Don't
the
be too
rains coming.
proactive.
Don't get too proactive.
Gotcha.
If you wanna put your bundles of sticks by the curb, I don't know. Careful with your storm
All right.
drains. There's no happy, easy answer.
We'll massage it.
Yes.
Sounds good.
You're talking about those big holes with the grates on them?
Right.
Yeah. They get clogged quick.
I didn't know that was my responsibility,
Well,
but
clarify for me, Mr. Medley.
Yeah,
It's a true.
yeah, they're supposed to, residents are supposed to maintain the water ditches,
The drain.
catch basins.
so it's okay if I take that grate off?
You're getting a little
Yeah,
crazy
that's not-
there.
We don't want them going down in the grate, but also
No,
helps.
I mean to clean it.
Just the
no, we don't want you
surface.
Going down inside and cleaning.
Get your
Just the
shot,
surface.
get your shot
Right
back
off
out,
the
Carol.
top of it.
There are some places you can't even find the
Carol,
drain
sometimes I
because
take
they're
the
so
hose.
covered with leaves and stuff like
I
that,
take
you
a
don't even
hose
know
and
where
I
they
just-
are.
Well, that's
Clear
probably the
the
problem. So
opening
keep the
so that
grates
water can
clean.
drain.
Okay,
Because I think
Keep
most
the
we get is
inlets
leaves in ours.
I just wanna make sure I'm doing the right thing.
Yeah, it's probably worth a whole other kind of separate subject or little article. Because back when we did get snow, I would make sure I was keeping my storm drain clear. If you
Okay.
weren't thinking about it, you would just make a big mountain of snow right over your storm drain.
Right.
And that was silly. So like, you have to sort of think through, how do we make these storm drains so they can function? And it just was a sad accident to see people are like, oh, brush pickup's gonna happen in 6 weeks. I'm just gonna start piling trees out there. And none of us knew that much rain was gonna come a week ago.
Right.
So I enjoy pulling out limbs. I took off my wedding rings first. It was fun. But I was just sort of like, why aren't people doing this? And the fellows went out and tried to help, but then when they go out to help, residents might think that it's the road department's responsibility to keep that storm drain. But
Okay.
thanks for clarifying. I meant on the surface, not lifting up the grate, as strong as you are getting in there.
I just wanted
I
to
know how-
So,
Hold your grandson
Good
by his ankles.
clarification.
Clear that out.
I mean, it's a service that the Public Works Department provides.
The
But-
brush pickup?
Like I said, sometimes residents will think that's a way to get rid of some yard debris and stuff like that, and they shovel everything on top of it. Then when it rains, then they, hey, our drain's plugged. We go over there, and there's all this.
You plugged your own drain
Yeah,
by accident.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like try to avoid plugging your drains, or they plant shrubs around it, and the shrubs are grown into the.
Into it, yeah.
it's
She's full of plant shrubs around it, Lenny.
People are really creative.
You see it all the time.
They don't want anybody to see the drain because it's not attractive.
You
So
have a pen on the floor back, back,
So I already got next year's news article figured out. Just people don't know, so.
Okay, that's all for the public works.
I don't know if that came from now, maybe it's been there for a month.
it's from Calvert City, Kentucky. No idea.
Probably belongs to your mom, or she
Oh,
Tennessee.
my-
Tennessee. So that moves us to appreciations. I just want to thank Deborah for all of her work putting together these absolutely adorable little sheets. Please take them so that you're aware. April 21st, self-defense. Resource fair, April, and that's going to be at $9.99. And then April 27th, we've got the self-defense class and resource fair. That's going to be at $38.20. We have a whole bunch of calendar events. The 20th is going to be litter sweep. We've got the 21st, which is Minority Health Day, so that is going to be going along with the self-defense class. 27th is Arbor Day event, where you can pick up trees again.
When's the next produce market?
The 12th, this coming Friday.
And we've got a chat with the trustee that has been scheduled for this. And I'm also planning on doing one over at 3820. We just haven't solidified the date yet.
And drug take back day with DA will be the 27th as well.
Drug DA Take Day Way. That whatever he said is going to be on the 27th.
That's in conjunction with our Arbor Day Earth Day. It's on the flyer that looks like this. You can pick up all your flyers over there on the back row. You're going to get some postcards in the mail here shortly. One for the chat with the trustee on the 25th, 6 o'clock here, geared towards the UV resident area of Clinton Township. And then we also have the beautification postcards too, really trying to get that bolstered up, trying to get those before pictures sent in.
Carol, we're interested in volunteers.
Everything's on the link.
What's that?
We're interested in volunteers who want to help with the beautification project.
Yeah,
Judges
I
and-
just don't wanna, share it.
The secret.
Appreciation.
Is that all the announcements?
Oh, real quick, I wanted to piggyback on something I think Dave mentioned earlier. A couple of the residents were concerned about their grass being torn up since the Elmore project's almost completed. I'm sure, because I've had similar work done on my street, and they do always seem to circle back around and patch up the bald spots and stuff in the yards and things like that. So I just wanted to push something out, letting the people know that, hey, now that the Elmore sidewalk project is almost completed, your yards will be restored to some effect from the machinery damage or whatever,
Yeah, it should be taken care of.
to let people know before they, get too concerned about their yards. 'Cause I drive down there every day, and it is, the sidewalks look beautiful. They're beautiful. I can't wait for them to do this side. But the yards, are a little, they got the butt end of it.
And Bob.
Okay, I was not able to attend the last trustee meeting, unfortunately. So I want to thank Deborah for taking my place and explaining about the Easter egg hunt, which was a huge success. I need to get on and thank all the people who helped us for that. Even though it was cold, we had quite a good turnout, and we had hot chocolate cookies to make people keep them warm and so forth. And I want to thank all of you for saying, "Hi, Bobby." Hi back to you, but you didn't see me do it.
We felt it though. We
Right.
knew you were watching live, not the recording.
You were there in spirit, Bobby.
I really want to take my dad to that Easter egg thing, maybe next year.
Create a separate,
He's not that
Category.
special. I want him to see the kids looking for the eggs.
yeah.
He was so good at hiding eggs.
Carol?
I was wondering about, as I understand it, we don't have any insurance coverage, for the playground this side, or,
No, we do.
oh, you do have,
I mean, the township has an insurance policy that covers all of our land.
okay.
What are you asking
No,
specifically?
I'm just wondering if there was an accident, someone was to get hurt.
Oh, no, we have an insurance policy. There was
Okay.
many years of talking about that mulch that came up in the insurance scrub, that she would double check everything and she didn't like. Either we didn't have something for the kids to land on, or we had wooden mulch.
Okay, my mistake,
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if we had one.
We
Yeah.
have insurance, we just don't have a building use policy. in place. So we're just trying to make sure that our building use policy complies with our existing insurance that we have. So one of the things that was emailed to me and I sent to the board was a copy of our insurance policy, so that when we have that session and we talk about the building use policy, then we can kind of go over it line by line and see what kind of things that we need to do to make sure that we're compliant.
Okay, my misunderstanding.
I could see why we might not have clarified.
Well, we're throwing so many words around that I can completely understand the confusion. I'm kind of confused and I'm the one organizing the whole thing, so, you know, it's fine.
Well, that's good to know.
Well, if there's any more other appreciations, then I would say the meeting is adjourned.
Need a second. Move to adjourn. She moved to adjourn.
Second.
Sweet. Done. Thanks.
Apple. Thank you.
I think you ran there.
I do. It's in my office.